everyone, this is Alan of Reimaru Files. I'm here with Chad today. Hello, Chad.
Hello, guys.
And well, we would like to share with you our immense appreciation for this recently released game on the Switch called Fire Emblem 3 Houses. I got it right this time.
Right. Good one, Alan. You just mix up the mobile version.
I'm so sorry. We had to record again. Anyway, so Fire Emblem is a game that wasn't very known to me until the marketing came out for Fates? Fire Emblem Fates? Can you share a bit of history about Fire Emblem with us?
Alright, well, Fire Emblem started way few decades ago, for the Famicom.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was inspired with the Famicom Wars, which many of us known it as Advance Wars in the Game Boy Advance.
Mm-hmm.
So the team behind I think Intelligence, the developers behind Fire Emblem started it in more of a medieval fantasy type, and then with the insane AI and a permanent death that makes it more challenging for players. It sold well in Japan, but in America or in the West, it took several years before we could finally experience what's Fire Emblem on the Game Boy Advance.
That's 2000 plus.
Yeah, in the early 2000.
Okay.
And then fast forward to in 2012 and the 3DS. I think there's some concerns with the sales on the Fire Emblem franchise. Was supposed to be the final game for that.
Okay, so
and then the developers just went all out and just whatever they really want to express it about the game, they just made it, and then boom, it was it was the biggest best-selling game in the franchise. It went tenfold or 100-fold from their previous sales in other games.
yeah, because they went all out. I think this was the first Fire Emblem they were Fire Emblem Awakening, right?
Yeah.
It was it was on the 3DS. It was their first 3D title, I think.
Well, technically, there's a 3D title for the GameCube,
But
and then on the Wii U, on the Wii. But this was more of a unique approach, or maybe a more refreshing take for the Fire Emblem franchise. I guess the bonding system,
the support system.
the support system. When you continue talking to your support characters,
Mhm.
or maybe continuing to tag them as partners during missions,
Okay.
increase their bonds, and it also affects the stats, increase accuracy, increase avoid is
Stuff
critical.
Yeah.
That's really useful.
All right. So that's Awakening. I believe Fates had its own issues. It didn't sell as well.
It doesn't sell as well, but it's still a good game.
It's still- yeah,
it's
still
not
notable.
the same caliber with Awakening, but still had some memorable characters, some okay plot, and the idea of picking which side, which faction.
Actually, even I think it's even though Fates didn't sell too well, they even made spin-offs the Warriors.
Yeah, they made fast forward a few years later, and on the Nintendo Switch they released Fire Emblem Warriors with
It's also a game.
collaboration with Koei Tecmo.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then a few years back, before even the release of, or even the inception of Nintendo Switch, Atlus and Nintendo made a partnership for the Wii U, and it's called Tokyo Mirage Session. It's a combination of Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem, but instead of a strategy SRPG, it's more of a Persona type, or a Shin Megami Tensei type of game.
Actually, now I got a bit of a weird idea. So I think everybody knows about Fire Emblem Heroes by now, the mobile game. So I'm not gonna talk about that. I didn't like it very much, to be honest.
Well, it's a unique take. Well, in terms with Tokyo Mirage Session, it's more of a pop idol approach.
Yeah.
Every character has its career in pop idol, in tokusatsu, or
Yeah.
being a manager, or maybe a rock star.
Yeah.
It's more of a music.
Yeah. Well, so wait, when you mentioned that Shin Megami Tensei, Atlus, right? So Atlus and what's the company? Intelligence. They made a collaboration.
Yeah.
And then you see all of these a bunch of Persona-esque features on 3 houses.
Well,
right?
technically, kind of like that. Oh yeah, some correction. It's intelligent system.
Intelligent system. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the developer for Fire Emblem.
All right. No, like it sounds like Tokyo Mirage Session was the in between for Fates and then Three Houses, where in Three Houses they fully incorporate whatever they learned from Tokyo Mirage Session.
Yeah. Well, technically, Tokyo Mirage Session is an okay game, but during that time, it's technically at the end of the Wii U's life cycle, so not many people managed to purchase the game. So it was like a missed opportunity for both of them.
If you could call that a life cycle.
Yeah, well, they have a life cycle.
It's just a 1 year or something.
I think it's like 4 years.
Was it?
Or 4 or 5, or maybe I think 3 years, and then it didn't sell well.
Because I think by the first year they decided that the console was dead. But
Yeah, it's like the same fate with Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Like, it was a really good game, but it's already at the end of the Wii's life cycle.
all right.
And it was a good decision for, Nintendo to release it on a virtual console or a digital release.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also released it for the new 3DS version.
All right. So, I guess that's enough of a background. Like you see, listener, if you're there, you are there. Anyway, all the stuff that happened and what the developers went through before you got to Three Houses. That's a lot. That's a lot of things happening.
Yeah.
And now we got Three Houses, which is the biggest Fire Emblem game ever.
Yeah, technically, I think according to reports from the NDP,
Yeah.
or was that correct, or NPD, it's more of a marketing firm that they released like the July sales, and surprisingly, Fire Emblem Three Houses was the best-selling title for that month, considering it was released like on the 26th of July.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other big contenders as well, like there's Dragon Quest Builders 2,
Okay.
and I think according to Square Enix, it sold a lot as
Wait,
of in August. Like,
Square Enix.
yeah,
Square Enix is the publisher.
yeah, for Dragon Quest Builders.
Ah. So Dragon Quest Builders, I believe you said, sold at least 1 million copies.
Yeah, according to Square Enix, but maybe it factors a lot, maybe from the Japanese version, which sold way early, like last year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of possible factors, but according from the sources, like Fire Emblem Three Houses sold really high in terms of physical copies.
Okay.
So the digital versions weren't counted at that time, so
It's probably even more.
it could be more.
It's probably even more because I wouldn't be surprised if people preloaded the game, right?
Yeah.
And you're saying that it sold the most copies in July compared to any other game on any other platform.
Yeah, and also another interesting fact is that for Three Houses, it's the best-selling Fire Emblem game during a launch month.
Okay.
It managed to beat Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadow of Valentia, which is the previous Fire Emblem release and the final release for the 3DS.
Okay.
But of course, the most best-selling is still Awakening.
All right.
And there's a possibility that Three Houses could be
Could break that.
break that record.
Because if it's running, it's hitting the ground running right now, right?
Yeah, remember it's still on the first month.
Yeah.
What more could it like after 3 months?
I just realized that you just said first month, and if I save out like 70 hours.
I'm still not in 35.
Yeah, I'm clocking 35. Yeah, we're obviously fans of the game. This is my first Fire Emblem game, and I've fallen in love with it. I just love the game so much.
I think mine was I played the first GBA Fire Emblem game, but not that much. Like I only finished the first mission with Lynn, since it's a tutorial.
Okay.
And then realized it's a permadeath until I realized after watching some videos. But I didn't manage to continue my playthrough with the GBA version.
Alright.
But my first proper Fire Emblem playthrough was with Awakening. And that's for the 3DS. And then after that I played Fates. I managed to play the 2 versions, which is Birthright and Conquest.
Mm-hmm.
And also I played Echoes, Shadow of Valentia.
Alright, so far, of all the Fire Emblem game you played, how do you rate like Three Houses?
So far, I kind of could give it a 9
9?
for Three Houses.
Which
It's
one?
really refreshing. Yeah, it's still the fantasy medieval feel,
Mm-hmm.
but the characters and the setting is really much, we can say, sort of new for the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Because here, instead of being the future king or maybe a heir to a certain kingdom,
Mm-hmm.
you're a professor.
So
Or actually,
you're a commoner.
You're a commoner. Or actually, at the start, you're a mercenary, but you've been assigned as a professor for a certain school,
Uh-huh.
which is like a neutral ground for the three kingdoms
Okay.
in the Kingdom of Fulden.
All right.
So it's an interesting part that instead of being the leader, you're teaching some potential leaders or for the future leaders for the certain kingdoms.
Well, that's how the story presents itself at the start.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's gonna change up later on. I don't.
Yeah,
like-
probably, but at least that the setting is interesting because it gives it a different perspective.
Okay.
Or maybe there are more plot twists that we haven't seen, and of course we can't spoil much yet,
yeah.
since people are still playing it midway, or maybe
they're not playing it as fast as I am.
yeah.
So at least, I mean, there's people definitely faster than I am, and I just like to sit in it and refine everything as much as I can. Anyway, Fire Emblem for me, yeah, I haven't. It's hard for me to say games that I enjoyed like Final Fantasy Tactics. I've always
Mhm.
wanted to find a game that would remind me a lot of Final Fantasy Tactics, and this is actually the one. This is the one that actually reminded me a lot about it. I've been thoroughly enjoying the game. I like the story so far. Not that I don't think it's really unique as a story. I don't think they're doing anything like a surprise twist for me. Anyway, so they commit to their stories, they commit to their characters, and they develop in an interesting way. At least I like where they go. I like okay, this character is probably gonna be gonna evolve in this certain way, but they commit to it. So it's not like trying to pull the rug from under me, and I like how they progress. The mechanics are great. I like them enough. I think there used to be a weapon triangle system.
Yeah, originally Fire Emblem was well known for its weapon triangle system. Like
Mm-hmm.
sword is stronger against axe, and then axe is
Against
strong
spear?
lance and spear, and then spear lance is stronger against sword.
Yeah,
And then
there's-
soon in future games it featured more weapon triangle system. Like for magic users, you're strong against armor types, and then armor types you're strong against some forgot which
Flyers.
part. Flyers for archers.
no.
I mean, yeah, I think it's for archers, I guess.
Well, most flyers can't deal much damage against armor types, except if you're using it.
I think there's some sort of not much of a triangle system
Okay.
because it's more of a one-sided. Like for example, magic is strong against armored,
Okay.
and then flyers is weak against bow users because
Because they can get hit by the bow.
yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't carry in Overwatch, but whatever.
Well,
anyway, anyway. But what they did here is they made it more customizable. They made it more unique. There's the triangle doesn't necessarily apply. Does not necessarily apply. The affinities are still there. You can still play it the same old way, but you can actually customize your settings of each character such that it doesn't have to be like that.
yeah, I think
Right.
it's more customizable for your class. So you could reclass your certain character. You
Yeah.
want it, like for example, you wanted more of a flyer.
Yes.
You can go with for like, I think for a flying bow user, you could go for a Kishi warrior. But of course, for Tree Houses, they don't feature the Kishi warrior. I think it's exclusive for Fire Emblem Fates. Or maybe you want to be like the Dark Knight,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe a bow user, but you're on a horse, so you'll be a bow knight.
Yeah, you can do that. Actually, what I did with my characters is I looked at them, I looked at their stats, and then I looked at what the classes that they can become in the future, and I decided what stats I'd raise based on that.
Yeah, like for example, Dex is good for someone who's into bow,
Yeah.
and Magic is of course for magic, and then Speed you can go either a sword mercenary or maybe a thief.
Mm-hmm.
So whichever it's always based on the character's stats or how its growth is.
All right, so that's all of the traditional Fire Emblem things. What's so different about Three Houses that you've observed since you've played other
So
Fire
far,
Emblem
it's
games?
well, it's more of a persona-ish take because there's more of a social thing in previous Fire Emblem games in the 3DS,
Mhm.
but it's more personal. Like since it's on the Switch, it can feature more rendered characters. It feels more of a persona. Like you can interact with them, and then you can also give them gifts.
Mhm.
And then the best part here is instead of enhancing your fortress or your base, you are managing your schedule on your students.
So it's very much like Persona.
Yeah,
It's very-
it's leaning towards that, but in a good way.
Yeah. So yeah, I actually noticed that with the game. I tried to look for ways to exploit the schedule, so I can so I can maximize the benefit with the minimum amount of time.
I got a career in fishing.
Get a career in fishing.
You're that loco.
It's not a good JRPG if there's no fishing mini game.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a must.
It's a must. You gotta have that. And-
If it has a fishing game, that's the key to your character progression.
And it shouldn't be a bad fishing game. It has to be a pretty okay fishing game at the very least. People have to think about it. You know? Like FF15 had it, Nier Automata had it, Suikoden 2 had it.
Yeah, Breath of Fire had it.
So fishing is a JRPG core.
It's a core mechanic for every JRPG.
JRPG. I don't know how that would translate in Dragon Age. But I don't think it
yeah.
would. Alright, so far, what do you think is really good about Fire Emblem Three Houses?
Well, for the story, it's not that something of an original, but the way the character development is been delivered to you, it's really good.
Okay.
I mean, you could, like for example, I chose the Black Eagles
Mm-hmm.
as my house. So there's one character called whose name is Bernadetta,
Mm-hmm.
who's more of an introvert.
Okay.
But when you try to talk to her, give her gifts, or maybe encouraging her to on weekend activities,
Okay.
you can see like the progress or maybe improve your bond level with her.
Okay.
You can see she's more open. She's more now approachable because she overcome her fear, or perhaps she told her side of the story on why she is like that.
Okay.
It makes you appreciate the character more because it's like in real life. Like you make friends with them, you make the bond stronger. They're more open to you. You can realize how it could influence that person.
Yeah. Like for example, dealing with Chad.
Yeah.
Chad normally holds up in his apartment, so sometimes you gotta invite him with like gifts of food.
It's like I don't know money, man.
Improve your bond level with him, and maybe he'll
So I want to
his stats will go up.
sleep.
All right, but okay, I would say I enjoy playing Fire Emblem like a Persona game, because one, I'm a big Persona 5 fan, and 4 and 3, and it's the engagement just keeps continuing, because I'll grind a bit with the battles because I didn't go hard mode because I didn't think that highly of myself. Now, then after the battles, you want to be able to see what support conversations come up.
Yeah.
Then after that, you're gonna want to raise their stats. Like the activity is so different, but it actually rewards you in other activities. Having better support level gives you better stats when you're in formation. Being able to increase their motivation, which is also a result of support and gifts, lets you be able to raise their stats and instruction. You get to plan out all these things. Fishing gets you a PhD in being a professor.
Yeah.
Uh,
Doctor in physionomics.
yeah,
Whatever that means.
what I'm trying to say is everything you do in Fire Emblem actually leads to a result that would probably matter to you, especially characters dying. Like I've never appreciated a rewind button so much. When I saw one of my characters like die because I made a bad decision for the strategy.
Yeah, I just do know that there's no spoilers regarding any character deaths because in any Fire Emblem game,
Uh-huh.
A permadeath is a feature. So regardless if it's not story driven on a certain death of a character,
Uh-huh.
it's still a major part as a mechanic, well, sort of, not much of a core mechanic, but it's a part of a mechanic in the game.
What does the story change because somebody died?
Well, not much. You can still play it normally, but you'll just be like, you're missing 2 or 3 characters if you screwed up on your missions.
Permanently, they're gone. Like, and you spent all that time raising them.
Yeah, so there's no need to worry about the story if you lost some of the key, you think are key characters.
Okay.
Yeah, also there's a casual mode, so if in case you're not confident in your skills and your strategies.
All right. So you mentioned a while ago that so I think we've covered why we think Fire Emblem is a great game by itself, but now it's time to draw the line in the sand, Chad. It's time.
It's not perfect. Can't be.
You gave it a 9 over 10. Like, so far, what do you think is a little annoying about the game?
Well, so far,
Aside from Edelgard.
I don't care. There's still Petra and Dorothea. My Black Eagles. It's the best house.
Alright, anyway.
Anyway, let's start first.
Okay, for me, I guess there's going to be a few inconveniences with loading. Kind of just technical issues. Sometimes the information you want, because that's what I noticed on the game. Like, it tries to make all the information you want available as much as possible, but sometimes I feel like it's not showing me. One thing I would have really enjoyed would be presets for characters or parties.
Oh yeah, actually, it's a good idea.
Like, if I wanted to turn, like, for example, one of my healers is also I've made her a holy knight, so she can go on horseback, all that. Now, she already has a set of skills. She has an inventory when she's on horseback. But if I decide not to, because it's a bad idea for that battle, turn her back into a bishop, it can't. The skills, I have to reassign them. I have to reassign the inventory. So it's a lot of prep work. So if there were presets, that would be a super appreciated feature for me.
I think for me, not much of a critic on the game, on the mechanic itself, more on the aesthetics.
Yeah.
I kind of miss the old school sprite setting on the overview of the map. Like, for example, if you play the older games like the 3DS versions, like Awakening and Fates, when you see the overview of the map, the characters are in 2D sprites.
Okay, so they're
It's
like icons.
if you saw the loading screen, right, and also on the class selection.
Yeah.
If they have just an option, because in Three Houses you have the option to go, overhead third-person perspective of the battlefield. When you press the plus button twice,
Yes.
it zooms in. It zooms in, so it's more of a Fire Emblem Warriors type of approach, of a vibe. But hopefully they could have add like the old school style when you zoom out, like on the overview of the entire map.
They did have that.
Yeah, but it's more still 3D models.
No, because if you zoom out enough, they're gonna show you the actual grid with the just symbols of the characters, not the sprites though.
No, it's only the overview of the map. Like here, it's a mini map. But as you play the game, like if you zoom out, maybe they could have just had the option of 2D sprites.
So old school game.
The old school game.
All right. Well,
it's more of aesthetic type for me.
Okay, so I guess I would say that compared to the 3D of like Guilty Gear or Arc Sys in general, like it could be better. I would attribute most of its limitations to the hardware.
Yeah, but
Switch can't be that good.
But it's still the transition between the overview map and the battle scene is still flawless. Like in any of the Fire Emblem games, there's no loading time in between. If you notice that, right?
Yeah, I actually appreciate.
So which is
that.
like the good thing with the combat system in Fire Emblem.
One thing that might have been nice would have been a few custom animations. It seems to be restricted to job class.
Oh yeah.
So when somebody's doing a crit, like I got the old man professor. I got to recruit him, Hanaman.
Oh yeah.
So when you see the girls doing the casting for critical magic, it looks okay. Then you see an old man doing it, like, no, that don't look good.
Oh yeah. Or maybe there's some future quest, because I know there's a certain quest that you could unlock one new job. Any other story-driven chapters.
Okay.
That you will unlock certain classes.
Oh,
but
you can't mention what that class is?
Well, again, you can mention like the dancer,
Yeah, yeah.
and
okay.
then for your protagonist, the enlightened one.
Mhm.
But hopefully, there's other side quests like secret classes that you could unlock. That's
Ah,
only that will be available for your certain, like for example, for certain houses,
okay.
or maybe for certain genders.
Well, I don't know.
Probably in the future DLC, because I remember for Fates they release other new classes through missions.
Maybe. I mean, they do have that season pass. I don't know how many expansions they plan to send out for the season pass, but they're
Yeah.
probably gonna be like 1 or 2 job classes.
Because I remember for the Black Eagles,
Yeah.
for Edelgard, if you go into an intermediate class, you could unlock the Lord class, which is the classic sword class for protagonists.
Okay.
Like for
I believe no, actually, I believe the Lord class is locked only for at least for my playthrough. It was just time locked.
I guess, or maybe it's only for the leaders of the houses.
Yeah, that's how I saw it. I mean, that's how I think it happened. Anyway, so yeah, those are just a few complaints. Actually, you know what? Presets would have been such a big like quality of life improvement for me. Like especially when I'm switching up classes.
Oh, yeah.
Like just 3 favorites. That's gonna really like help me from, because every time there's a new battle, like it's on a desert. Okay, I can't use horses. Well, something like that.
Oh yeah, I guess so. I think presets will be a nice addition. Maybe in the future patches or updates.
Yeah, or maybe another game. But I don't know how long it'll take me to like finish this game a couple of times, because that is definitely how I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play like basically every route I can.
And also developers encourage you to play the New Game Plus.
The New Game Plus, huh? All right.
Yeah. I guess you could try the different different houses for the New Game Plus.
All right, fanboy corner. Let's go. So you chose Black Eagles because
Yeah, it's the best house.
ha ha. That was it. I don't know. Like online statistics showed me that the most popular house was indeed Black Eagles. Because when
They're
you
waifus.
because when you start the game, that has the loading screen gives you the online statistics, right? And I see all the most deployed characters are all Black Eagles. So like, I wonder why she's so popular. I don't get it. I don't get why. Which one do you think is making Black Eagles really popular?
I guess it's Dorothea.
Dorothea. All right, like the idol girl.
Yeah.
Because the what? No.
Typical
the
character
waifu.
who wants a sugar daddy.
That. Well, at least she's straightforward about it.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, for me, not for any aesthetic reasons or any shallow reasons that one might think of, I chose the Golden Deer.
Yeah, you want to be a pretty boy, Claude.
No, Hilda has nothing to do with it.
No, because she's a twin tail. That's why.
No, though I actually really like the choice that I made. I like the characters in general. My favorite character in Golden Deer is surprise, Raphael.
Oh yeah.
I love the guy. He's just so earnest and not so smart, which is kind of part of the charm. And he's direct, and everybody just tries to work with him. I love it. I love watching the guy interact with everyone. And apparently I have the best mage in the house. Best mage is which is kind of a bonus for a weeb like me, being voiced by Yuki Aoi, which is also Tanya the Evil. If anybody's watched that, I could see the character just play out. So I'm really enjoying my time in Golden Deer. Because actually, no, I really like all the characters in Golden Deer. I really do.
I think each house has interesting characters. Like for example, with the Black Eagles.
Uh-huh.
Well, Hubert seems like typical menacing right hand man of the Emperor or something.
Uh-huh.
But once you try to grow closer with him, you can see like why he's like that, or why he's like being a mean or cold-hearted guy.
Okay.
Turns out because that's how it was, because he's like being committed to be a servant or maybe a follower for the heir of the Emperor.
Okay.
Or the Empire.
So it's like out of loyalty. Like
And also mentioned like Bernadetta, more of an introvert or like a closer
I
person.
got to recruit her too.
And then they also have Petra,
Petra.
who's from Kino Bridget. So it's just technically a foreigner.
Actually, the kind of issue I had with the English dub of the game, the English voice, was there were some nuances that weren't translating very well.
Oh yeah.
Like Petra didn't have an accent in English. She didn't have a stranger obvious foreigner
She
accent.
has like a broken English approach.
No,
But it has no accent like, a native tongue.
yeah, it wasn't there. So that really put me off, and so I decided to stick to Japanese.
Yeah, I think in Japanese version it translated well because of the accent.
Yeah. All right.
I haven't tried the Japanese dub though because I'm kind of attached with the English because that's how I played it in the previous Fire Emblem games.
Hey, if you're comfortable with that, go ahead.
Yeah, at least it's a good way that they also included the Japanese dub, but and still we can give praises with the English dub because it's not that like a typical, from older anime series that have
Alright.
horrible dubs.
All right, it's not AXN 2000 style
Yeah.
anime kind of. Yeah, it's not that bad. It's not but it's just that there are a few things there that since I started with Japanese and then I tried the English dub.
Yeah,
Like I could notice there's like stark differences of interpretation, and you're already set with how this character is, and then you're seeing that there's a alternate interpretation of that character. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It didn't stick to me very well.
I think the same approach with the Persona 5 dub. Like there's some complaints with how they pronounce Anne's name.
Uh-huh.
I think it's the same experience, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, some highs and lows, but it's a good dub for
Alright.
English.
So I think we have talked about Fire Emblem Three Houses at length. Unless there's anything else you want to
I
add.
think we need to mention like it's one of the example of a game that it makes the single player experience still more viable without any addition of a required multiplayer feature.
Okay, well, the multiplayer, yeah, it doesn't make sense in the Fire Emblem game. You can see that. Actually, it was so well shown to me how it doesn't make sense in the mobile game. But anyway,
Oh yeah.
anyway, yeah, single player is not dead. Basically, single player is valuable. There's all you have to do is to make a good game, and this is another home run for Japanese. Like
Yeah.
since the start of the year. Since the start of the year, it's just been hit after hit for Japanese games.
Yeah, for the past few months for 2019, it's really much leaning towards Japanese developers.
Yeah.
Well, I think, maybe because for the Western games, maybe there's some certain games that are not ready yet for this year. Maybe at the end of the year, hopefully, we could see more from the West.
Probably. I mean, despite all of its controversy, let's hope that Borderlands 3 comes out of it and is as good as it looks like.
Oh yeah, well,
Because it has a huge fan base, man.
yeah. Oh, we all both played first Borderlands and Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, and
So-
all of us enjoyed the game.
So there's that. But anyway, I think what we can see from the latest development or the latest game that we have here, Three Houses, sorry, is that everybody, all the effort they put, everything I notice about the game is towards making the game good, towards making the game a better experience. Like the quests, the schedule, the support conversations, the dual dub, which I really appreciate. I really like that. That's one of the things that I know is actually difficult to do.
Yeah.
It's actually very difficult to do, but they pulled it off. I applaud the companies, the developers for being able to do that. And now you got this little community forming online, talking about Fire Emblem all the time. I love it. It's got so many jokes.
Yeah, I think we can say in the good part that the community for the Fire Emblems scene is growing again.
Yeah.
Like with Awakening making a big boom for the Fire Emblem, and then continues with Faith, Echoes, and Heroes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think we could say Fire Emblem is now a mainstream game in the West, and also globally, we could safely say that.
Yeah. So here's to Fire Emblem and well, just making such a great game. I love it so much. That's about it for me. How about you?
Oh yeah, I guess I'm looking forward for more, maybe DLC, like more mission packs, or maybe like a side story, probably happen after the game or
Right.
after the story.
I have to finish the game first before
Yeah.
I decide saying anything about it. It's actually very difficult for me to continue talking without actually talking about anything about the story, about the characters, because we said we wouldn't spoil anything.
Yeah, but
You're making this very difficult, Chad.
well, or not spoilers, you know.
Like I'm not really bothered by spoilers. So anyway, moving on. I'm not sure what game we're going to talk about next after this, but there will be another game.
Probably maybe next month we could say talk about Borderlands 3,
Mm-hmm.
and of course this month we can expect Astral Chain releasing on the Switch from Platinum Games.
Demon X Machina, boys.
Oh yeah, the Demon X Machina.
Okay, one of us is gonna have to pick up Astral Chain, the other one's gonna pick up Damon. But anyway, for those of you listening, thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed us loving something rather than ranting about something again. But
Why do you rant so much?
because there are things wrong in the game industry that needs to be fixed. That's it. But you know, instead of spreading negativity all the time, it might be nice to enjoy something once in a while. So that's about it. Again, this is Alan of Reimaru Files with Chad. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you very much for listening.
Bye.